welcome back to Overexplaining. Today we have the Tier 2 suits, which has 12 suits in total, and so this is going to be a bit of a longer episode than normal, since at most we've had in the past 7, so, actually not even 7, I think 6, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, this is going to be a bit of a longer video, but here we go. Starting off with Agent Liberty. All Tier 4s have 88.6% damage reduction, and Agent Liberty has 4 punch damage, 1 weapon damage, 2.5 fall resistance, and the retractable blade ability, which gives him one key, the toggle blade, which increases his punch damage. Also, something I forgot to mention with Doctor Strange and Killer Frost is blades such as Doctor Strange's sword and Killer Frost's spike prevent you from breaking blocks in creative, just like how a sword would. So if I grab a sword, it obviously blocks you from breaking blocks, and so do blades. But if I turn off the blade, I can break it perfectly fine. Agent Liberty takes 13 tritium to craft, and needs the Group 2 and Melee 1 nodes, making him pretty cheap, all things considered. The blade increases his punch damage from 4, sometimes 5, because of the damage variation of Minecraft, 2, I shouldn't do a crit, 7, increasing it by 3, and sometimes dealing 8, again because of the damage variation, causing him to deal a decent bit more damage than he would without the blade. There's also no reason not to have the blade on, so, other than if you're holding something, so, yeah. Some details with the skin are the chest piece actually still shows up on the head, just like Captain Cold's coat having the hoodie, or Doctor Strange's cloak having that, and so on, allowing it to appear on the head despite not having the helmet on. And if you have the helmet but not the chest piece, you can see details underneath, but it's mostly just empty. Next up for Agent Liberty is his augments. He is able to augment his damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, and fall resistance. And sprint speed. Sorry. So for iron, he gets damage reduction, which increases it by 1.036%, or 89.636. Gets 0.5 jump height, and 1 fall resistance. For gold, he gets all but weapon damage, which increases the damage reduction to 1.9%. Increases the punch damage by 1, which stacks with the blade. Forgot to mention that with Frost and Strange. The punch damage stacks along with the blade's damage. So now it would deal 8 damage. The jump height increases by 1. And the fall resistance by up to 2. And the sprint speed to 10%. And then damage reduction increases to 2.631%. Punch damage to 2. Weapon damage to 0.5, jump height to 1.5, fall resistance, and speed. Maxing out 3 of the 6 augments. And then he maxes out his damage reduction with 3.257%, or 91.857. 1 weapon damage, and 4 fall resistance. I did not mean to drop that. Him to be a bit more mobile than he was before, but still relatively weak. The next suit to cover is Ant-Man. This is one of the original suits added along with Agent Liberty. I forgot to mention that. He is one of the older suits in the mod. And Ant-Man has 1 ability, Pim Particles. He also has 4.5 punch damage, 1 weapon damage, 1 jump height, and 3.5 fall resistance. With the Pim Particles, he's able to shrink and grow, where if you hold the change size button, you can scroll to shrink, causing you to be 2 pixels tall, making you very short and very hard to notice, especially in a PvP setting. It also allows you to fit through gaps you couldn't normally fit through, and even allows you to pass through certain blocks, such as iron bars and fences. So you can just walk straight through them. Doesn't even matter if you're lined up with one of the pixels of the texture. You can just walk directly through them. There may be other blocks I am forgetting about with that, but if I am, then someone can tell me. Additionally, he has the giant mode ability, which firstly increases his damage, jump height, and movement speed, which scale actually increases all of that by a certain equation demonstrated, with the equation being shown on screen now. Which, if I increase my scale, I gain a total of... Let me wait for the chat to go away. I gain a total of 7.5 extra hearts, causing him to be a lot more tanky, having nearly double health, and it even increases his tier from tier 4 to tier 6. Also, when you disable giant mode, you have to wait for the bar to fully recharge before you can grow again. While if you shrink, you can re-shrink again even if the bar is not fully filled. And as I said before, the punch damage increases in giant mode. So normally I only deal 5 extra, but if I go into giant mode, I can deal 12, making it a very high increase. And as you can tell, I am a lot taller than Melon, causing me to have a much larger hitbox. But the high damage makes it so I can very easily kill him. Additionally, if the bar for when you're small empties, which is called the quantum realm timer, you get brought to the quantum realm. So if I just lower that ticks for the QR timer to 100 or 5 seconds, then firstly, as you see, it empties a lot faster, but also once it runs out, I get brought to the quantum realm. Once it finally loads in. The quantum realm has a number of materials, such as obviously quantum matter, but also other materials such as unstable quantum matter, or for the survival players, there is touchrites, with touchrite being used for crafting as a substitute to tritium in things such as suit cores and the upgrades for the augmenter. Also, as you may notice, you have moon gravity in this dimension, causing you to jump higher and fall slower and take a lot longer for fall damage to kick in. Additionally, once you exit the quantum realm, the distance you move is a lot less than in the overworld, due to you being at a smaller scale. So it takes a long time until you actually move a far distance in the quantum realm. But obviously, this dimension's use isn't for the material, isn't for movement. It is instead for getting resources and making sure players don't stay shrunk forever in combat. Also, this dimension has it so that if you need space breathing to breathe here. So Ant-Man has space breathing, and if I take off any parts of the suit, I start to suffocate. So once I put the suit back on, I no longer take the damage. Also, if you try in giant mode here, it does nothing. I'm not entirely sure the reason why, but it just does nothing. And you would have to take off and put back on the suit to be able to breathe again. As mentioned before, there is touch right in this dimension, which you can mine to get raw touch right, which you need an alloy smeltery to craft it into actual normal touch right gems, with it requiring either emerald or olivine to actually craft it into the gem. Aha! I fell. Alright. And to get out of the quantum realm, you need to find a blue density anomaly. These are somewhat rare, but still common enough that you can find one with relative ease. And it is the only place you can get the blue unstable quantum matter, which can be used for phantom arrows, and I believe other recipes. There is actually two density anomalies though. This blue one, and one that is a mix of green and yellow. Which, this one, the blue one, pulls you in. Meanwhile the red one pushes you away. With the red one not doing anything if you manage to touch it, although no suit and base can reach it. And the blue one, when you touch it, it brings you back to the overworld, being the only way to get out of the quantum realm. And as you can see, I am not as far from where I started as I would be, because I started roughly around here and then it popped me out over here. For the fabricator, he requires 21 tritium to craft, and he needs the melee 1 and size manipulation ability, which is only used on a few suits. So it is a lot more unique than some of the other augments in the mod. And his augments he has are damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and sprint speed. For iron, he only has the fall resistance. Then he gets all but punch damage. For gold, then he's able to upgrade everything. Gold titanium. Oh, lag. Okay. With most of his stats maxing out at vibranium, but except for his jump height and his fall resistance, causing him to be a pretty mobile character, especially if you shrink, since that does not lower your movement or anything. And just like with a blade, the augments stack along with giant mode, causing you to be a very fast, have a very fast movement at max augment, and a very strong damage, damage due to the giant mode. The next suit to show off is Arrow. This was one of the first suits added to the mod. Not the first, but one of the first. He is a relatively unique archer because most of the other archers in the mod change at least some part of the quiver texture to line up more with the skin. But Arrow doesn't, instead just keeping the default quiver texture. He also has 5.5 punch damage, 3.5 weapon damage, 55% drawback speed, causing him to be the second slowest drawback speed without augments, 1 jump height, 4.5 fall resistance, and 10% sprint speed. And just like with Arsenal, he has the horizontal bow power due to him having the archery ability, causing the arrows he shoots, let me go in creative, the arrows he shoots to be a lot more accurate than if he was holding it vertically. Well, if I aim at man, you notice a lot wider of a spread. Still relatively condensed due to me being so close, but it's definitely a lot more spread out. Recipe. He requires 15 tritium to craft and needs the archery and group 2 node to unlock. Not ability, that's my fault. The suit is actually based off of the Season 2 look with the actual normal mask. Because if it were the Season 1 one, then it would be the face paint. But instead they decided to base it off of the Season 2 look, causing it to have an actual physical mask. The augments for Arrow are damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and bow drawback speed, causing him to be the first archer to have that stat. So first damage reduction, then fall resistance, then everything is available in gold. Causing him to get a 60% drawback speed, 2 fall resist, 25 jump height, 25 weapon damage, 1 punch damage, and 1.9% damage reduction. Then 65% drawback speed, 3 fall resistance, 1 jump height, 1 weapon damage, 2 punch damage, and 2% damage reduction, 2.6. And then his weapon damage maxing out here. Then maxing his drawback speed at 70%. His fall resistance at 8.5. His weapon damage at 5, and his drawback, and then leaving Dwarf Star with his damage reduction. With his damage reduction maxing out at 3.8% or 92.4 in total, causing him to be a pretty tanky suit, but not the most mobile due to his sprint speed augmenting. The next suit to show off is the second speedster of the mod, and if I look ahead you can see there is more speedster to come. This being August Heart from the comics. He has 4 base speed levels, 4 punch damage, 2 weapon damage, 1 jump height, and 4 fall resistance. And when I have my speed active, you can see the lightning is actually crackling out of me, just like when Trajectory had more than 4 bars. As I said then, they actually have a lime lightning, and they have these sounds. Let me turn up my player sounds. They are, I believe, based off the Injustice sounds. If I am wrong about that, then someone can correct me, but these are his sounds, and usually that's his stopping sound. He He does not have a second speed mode like Trajectory, instead only having the one. But obviously, not having speed disintegration, causing him to be able to be mobile a lot longer than Trajectory, due to them not having the disintegration. He requires 27 Tritium to craft, and needs the Speed Force and Group 2 abilities. For his augments, he has base speed levels, fall resistance, jump height, weapon damage, punch damage, and base damage and damage reduction. With him getting this stuff, maxing out his punch and weapon damage and jump height at just gold titanium. Maxing his speed bars at 6.4, but as I said with Trajectory, the decimals do not actually factor into the amount of bars you can use. And finally maxing out his damage reduction and fall resistance with Dwarf Star, making him one of the slower speedsters, but pretty easy to unlock. The next suit to cover is Black Canary, Dinah Drake. She has 5 punch damage, 3.5 weapon damage, 1 jump height, 4 fall resistance, and 15% sprint speed. She also had the Canary Cry ability, just like Laurel Lance, causing her to have the same projectile as her. And just like her, she can lower gravity by looking down. She also comes with the Bow Staff, causing her to not have the sweeping ability, not have the double clicking ability of Laurel. There is one bonus to the Bow Staff compared to the Tonfas though. If there is a mob behind you, you're able to hit it along with any mob ahead of you. They were too far apart for that demonstration, but it is just able to hit mobs behind you at the same time you hit a mob in front of you, causing you to have a little bit of crowd control, but not the most. She takes 16 Tritium to craft and requires Group 2, Melee 1, Ranged 1, and the Black Canary Laurel Lance suit. This is the first suit. No, it's not. No, that's my fault. Which we covered in the Tier 3 episode. So if you want to know what they have, then go back and check that. For her augments, she has a lot of the same as Laurel, with damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and sprint speed. Firstly, fall resistance, then sprint speed, fall resistance, jump height. So her maxing her jump height at just gold titanium, and then vibranium, maxing punch damage, and then Dwarf Star. She maxed out the last 4 stats, causing her to be a pretty mobile suit, but not the most mobile. But she is certainly able to keep up with a lot of other suits in the mod. The next suit to cover is Dark Archer. This is the third archer in the mod. He has this quiver, which looks pretty nice, and turns the arrows black, causing the tip to be a silvery iron sort of color, and the feathers to be a dark black. He also has 2 other items. First, he has a scimitar, which is a weapon unique to him, with it dealing 6.5 attack damage, which with him. Also, his stats, sorry, I forgot to cover these. He has 5 punch damage, 4 weapon damage, 65% drawback speed, which makes him the fastest archer drawback speed without augments, 1 jump height, 4.5 fall resistance, and 15% sprint speed. But along with the scimitar, which just acts like a normal Minecraft sword with you being able to block and swing and all that, he also has, firstly, horizontal bow, as do all archers. But also, he has smoke bombs. These are unique to only him and Batman, where if you right-click, you throw out the smoke bomb, leaving a puff of smoke in wherever it lands. Which, the particles are affected by any terrain. So you notice it doesn't go inside the building, but it still goes in the rest of the direction. Also, if you hit a mob with the smoke bomb, it gives them the stealth attribute, which hides all armor and items they may hold. Even if I draw back the bow, then I'm still invisible. However, there is one downside to the stealth. There is one downside to the stealth though, whereas if you hit a entity with anything, it instantly ends, causing it to only last for however long it lasts, or until you hit a mob. So it can only last for so long. And it can be ended by any attack, whether it be melee or ranged. It always ends when you hit a mob. And obviously, you can hit another mob with the smoke bomb to put them in stealth. He's in creative, or no, wait, why didn't that work actually? I didn't know you. Why isn't it working? Try putting on the suit. Yeah, it only works when you're wearing a suit, so if you don't have on a suit, then it won't work, but obviously it functions completely when you have a suit on. But if it takes off any bit of it, like if you take off the helmet, then it will not work. For the fabricator, he requires 21 tritium and needs archery, but also melee 2 and arrow. Causing him to be the first of 2 archers that require another suit to be unlocked. And for some details with the suit are that when you have the quiver, you can see the strap going around the chest, which leaves that little dot you can see on the chest. And for his augments, he has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and drawback speed. Him those, and then all but drawback speed. Then at max augment, tying with the fastest drawback speed of an augmented suit of 75%. 75% is the highest that any archer in base mod goes as well. Then Dwarfstar finishing off the last 3 stats, causing him to be a relatively mobile suit and have a very quick drawback speed, but not being the strongest. But having such a fast drawback speed is very useful for just firing a lot of arrows out and just dealing a lot of damage. And obviously him having the smoke bombs and the scimitar make him a very strong suit up close, even without the bow. Along with his weapon damage, obviously, increasing that even more. Alright. Alright. Wait, where'd the bow go? There it is. Alright. The next suit to go over is Falcon. He has one alt, the Civil War suit, which is just the... which only has a few changes with him. Firstly, though, he has 5.5 punch damage, 3 weapon damage, 30% impact damage, 1 jump height, 4.5 fall resistance, and 10% sprint speed. He also had the Exo 7 flight pack, which allow for, firstly, a shield, which has only a little health and only protects from the front, but is still able to protect a lot. Alright. So the shield has 50 health and only blocks from the front. So if he attacks me from the side or anything, Melon. You meant to. This is the shield demonstration. So if he attacks me from the front, then I obviously block it. But if he attacks me from the side, it still hurts me. Even if I block from the side the wing is coming from, it still is able to hit me. And obviously, if he deals the 50 damage that it requires to break the shield, so if he grabs a suit, any suit will work. Alright, then if he does 50 damage to the shield, don't run around, just hit the shield. Then, if he deals the 50 damage, he will not deal much damage. So if it takes 50 hits, then eventually you could turn on your speed and just not move. Here, I'll sit. I'll sit right in this. I'll sit in a corner. So if he just lower your speed. So if he deals the 50 hits to break it, then just like with Doctor Strange, the shield breaks and it needs to recharge before it can be brought back up. And then it takes a bit to recharge, and obviously it works again. Also, with the shield, with the Exo 7 flight pack power, you gain controlled flight, acting just like Doctor Strange and Mysterio, with when you sprint, having a boost. There is also 2 which increases your speed greatly, a lot more than what Mysterio's increases by. There's also 2 extra things with Falcon. Firstly, if you're boosting and you double tap either A or D, you do a barrel basically pushing you in the direction of whatever button you pressed, allowing you to dodge obstacles that you may not notice, or dodge projectiles or anything, or just to look cool. There's also if you're boosting and you double tap space to stop flying, you do a roll. And that if I didn't die, then it also enters a dive, which is basically just free fall, but it has an animation to it. Additionally, if you do both the barrel roll and dive at the same time, it combines the 2 animations, which may look good with hero packs and their animation they use, but it also can look pretty cool. It has no practical function, it's just there to look cool. Also, if you wing shield while you're flying, it stops you from flying, so you can't use the ability if you're too high up, otherwise fall damage. Obviously, there is that bit of fire in the back, which turns blue when you're boosted. And it has that unique bar showing you how long it can boost for, with Falcons being a limited time, unlike Mysterios. But obviously it increases it by a lot more than Mysterios. For Falcon, you require 20 Tritium to craft, and you need the Defense 1, Flight, Group 2, and Marksmanship abilities, as he is a suit that is able to use guns. He doesn't come with any though. I'll just grab a Desert Eagle. So when you're holding a gun, your windshield button changes to a reload. So if you reload, you then can left click to aim, as it acts very differently from any other mods or even games firing mechanics. So if you left click, it allows you to aim, and then if you right click, you fire. With it breaking glass and all that if we had the rules set correctly. So let me set that real quick. Set that's not how you spell grief. Grief bullet. Then you break glass and stuff with the bullets. And the same, you can break all the same things you can as with the Tentacle Jab and Canary Cry. Also, the Desert Eagle has a 120% damage, which means the bullet you fire deals 120% extra damage. So the iron-tipped bullet I have right now would do 120% of 6, which would be... Let me do some math. Okay, deals 120%, so the Desert Eagle deals 120% damage, causing this iron-tipped bullet to deal 7.2 damage. It also only has 1 degree of variation, allowing it to be a very accurate weapon. And obviously, you can and as you can tell, there's many bullets in the mod. The casings only increase small stats, but the tips change a lot, such as the Dwarf Star tip, causing the bullets to become explosive. So if I grab that, you know there are explosive rounds, and they deal roughly the same damage. They also bypass projectile and bullet immunities, as bullet is a relatively common damage immunity, despite there not being too many guns. Also, if you were able to, all gun users are able to reload and use any gun in the mod, but you need to be wearing a suit that's able to use guns, otherwise you can't use them. So you can't reload, you can't aim, you can't do anything except for hold them. You have to be wearing a suit that's able to use guns to reload and all that. Though, with there only being 4 suits in base that allow that. Those being Falcon, Wild Dog, Deadpool, and Deathstroke, with Deadpool being in Tier 5 and Deathstroke being Tier 6. Okay. For his augments, Falcon has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and impact damage. So for iron, he gets fall resistance. For gold, he gets weapon and damage reduction. And then gold titanium, he gets the rest. Him maxing his weapon damage at 4. His punch damage at 7.5, and his damage reduction at 2.631. Oh, sorry, hiccups. Then jump height, fall resistance, and impact damage at Dwarf Star. With the impact damage being damage dealt when flying. There is other ways to deal the impact damage, but that is the way that Falcon deals it. So then, It allows you to deal extra damage by flying into the enemy, with it dealing more damage the faster you go. Allowing you to deal some pretty high damage, but also it being fairly risky due to you flying right into your enemy and being able to just crash into a wall. Also, the Civil War suit had the same stats and abilities, except the flying animation. If I sprint with normal, you see the arms stay stationary to the legs, roughly. But if I grab the Civil War suit, the arms actually extend out to the wings, sticking to the wings, and obviously with the wings having a different texture and all that. And there is a small gap in the arms that is a lot wider than on normal Falcon. But other than that, yeah, they have the same stats and abilities. Next up is Firestorm, Ronnie Raymond. He is a pretty unique suit visually, as he has the fire on his head and arms, with the fire on his head being able to be disabled with a simple mask toggle, which, as mentioned with Mysterio, is by default on right shift. And then when not, and he has controlled flight, allowing him to fly and all that. But unlike Falcon and Mysterio, he has no boost. He only has the sprint boost. He does not have an ability to boost. He also, like Mysterio, doesn't have a dive available or anything. Also, when on the ground, if you press with ability 1, he has a Flame Blast. This is a pretty old ability, so it's not the best, but it deals pretty high damage and can light enemies on fire, dealing additional damage over time. Also, if you melee, it also lights your enemy on fire, causing them to take additional damage as if you just have basic fire aspect on your fists. He also, if you right click, has a fire. This can be used in the air and is very spammy, but it's also pretty loud, and so that's why I tend to have my player sounds quiet, as Firestorm is a pretty loud suit. And obviously the fireball that deals an explosion when it lands. He also, in case you couldn't guess, has fire immunity. This is full-on fire immunity and not heat waves fire immunity, where it's only for a short time. This is full-on immunity, so you can just stand in fire or anything and just be perfectly fine. Although, it does not, as far as I remember, it does not, I know, it also works with lava, making the nether not at all dangerous, because you can just really sit in the lava and be perfectly fine. He also has 5 punch damage, 0.5 jump height, and 5 fall resistance. And he takes 23 Tritium to craft, and requires the, and requires the Flight, Group 2, and Ranged 2 nodes to unlock. And for his augments, he gets damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, fall resistance, and max health, causing him to be one of the more unique suits with max health, as not many suits have that augment, with Iron only giving him fall resistance, Gold getting him all except max health, and then maxing has weapon damage, gold titanium, maxing his punch damage at vibranium, and the rest being Dwarf Star. Causing him to be a pretty strong suit due to his health and all that, but not the strongest due to him being somewhat limited in his abilities, only having Fireball and Flame Blast, and the fire aspect. But he still has enough abilities to be able to go toe-to-toe with a lot of other suits in the mod. The next suit to go over is Geomancer. Geomancer is one of the more unique suits. So he has 4.5 punch damage and 2.5 fall resistance and Geokinesis. This has two abilities completely unique to Geomancer, as no other suit in base has this. Obviously hero packs use it a lot, but no other base suit uses them. And if I just reset the grief rule, not gravity manipulation, grief of Geokinesis, I said set, why did I do set? That's my fault. So if I reset that, then firstly let's start with the tremor. This creates an area of effect damage which does not affect the player in Geomancer. It creates a range of 20 blocks on all sides, where if anyone is standing on the ground, they take damage. However, if you are flying even slightly above the ground, you take no damage. Despite it being an explosive effect, it is not actually explosions. It is simply just a visual, because the ground itself is what deals the damage. Additionally, he has the Smash Ground ability, which is the ability used most to grief things, at least from my experience. So most servers tend to have it disabled, but you can obviously set it to not grief. This ability, when you right click, it explodes the ground around it, launching blocks all over the place, causing it to grief a lot of the area, but also deal a lot of damage to players around. The abilities are fairly effective on suits such as speedsters, who don't have any vertical abilities, as they're stuck to the ground, so the only way to avoid the damage is by jumping, which sometimes can be a little unviable, as sometimes you can still take the damage, unfortunately. Nope. So obviously, it can deal a lot of damage and really shut down a lot of suits from doing things, due to just how much of an area it affects and how much damage it can deal. Alright, for Geomancer, he requires 18 Tritium to craft and needs the Group 2, Melee 1, and Ranged 1 augment, nodes to unlock him. And for his augments, he has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and sprint speed. So for fall resistance, he gets that, then jump height and fall resistance, damage reduction, and punch damage. Then sprint speed, fall resistance, jump height, punch damage, weapon damage, and damage reduction. I'm running out of gold titanium. With him mixing out most of the stats except for damage reduction with the vibranium, and then finishing him off with these final stats, giving him some sprint speed but not much, and causing him to be somewhat mobile and very strong in close range and even in range due to the tremor. The next suit to go over is Kid Flash. He has 4 base speed levels, 4 punch damage, 0.5 weapon damage, and 1 jump height. And 4 fall resistance. Did I say that? I don't know. Causing him to be a pretty mobile suit and all that. He also has sort of a yellow lightning trail. Causing his yellowish orange-ish. He also has a mask toggle, causing a collar to appear at the back, which is not visible at all until you mask toggle, as it has an extra layer. As that is actually, for hero packers that want to do that, they do that using layer 2, with this appearing on layer 2, but locking it so it only appears when you have the helmet on. But if you don't have the full suit on, then it just shows the mask. Which is a pretty smart way to do it. He also has a signature. He also has a lot of red eyes in the suit, as he is CW. Well, yeah, stop talking already. So he's just a speedster, so he doesn't have many abilities. He doesn't really have any abilities that are unique to him, but he does have those unique sounds. Which sound pretty nice. And obviously has his mask toggle, which he only shares with a few suits. For the fabricator, he requires 27 titanium to craft, and the speed force. And for his augments, I grab more gold titanium and stuff. Just for the other two suits. I'll just use these last ones. For his augments, he has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and base speed levels. With iron just giving him more speed. I think I put that there. With him maxing out his speed levels at 6 bars, maxing his weapon damage at 2, and his sprint and his damage reduction 1.9, and finishing off with just damage fall resistance, which is a pretty common one to see in Dwarf Star, honestly, causing him to be a pretty mobile suit. But there is obviously faster and more mobile speedsters. The next suit to cover is Hunter Zolomon, the Flash. He has 3 base speed levels, causing him to be the slowest speedster we've seen thus far, and I believe the slowest in the entire base mod. 5 punch damage, 1.5 weapon damage, 1 jump height, and 4 fall resistance. His suit is obviously modeled just like Jay Garrick's and the suit he uses in CW. He has the same speedster sounds as Jay Garrick, which we will be covering in the Tier 5 episode, as he's a Tier 5 suit. So he is also one of, if not the slowest speedster. I double check. Base speed levels 4, 6, 5, 7, 3. Yeah, the only suit that has less bars than him is Shazam, who is not really a speedster, and even then he beats his speed due to him having sprint speed. He also he requires 25 Tetradium to craft, and not the wrong suit. I just opened Speed Force, and the Speed Force ability and Group 2, causing him to be pretty cheap for a speedster, but not the cheapest. And for his augments, he has damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and base speed levels. I'm augmenting these two at first level. Maxing his punch damage and jump height pretty soon. With him being one of only three speedsters in base that bring their base speed levels up 3 levels. As the only 3 that do that are Hunter, Trajectory, and Barry Allen. Every other speedster just increases it by 2 or 1 level. Needing him to increase it by the most, but obviously having the least to start with. Causing him to only match the speed of characters like Kid Flash, August Heart, Godspeed, all of them. But it still makes him a very fast speedster, with also a decent bit of damage. Especially weapon damage, since he is a villain, so. The final suit to cover is Wild Dog. He has 5.5 punch damage, 3 weapon damage, 1 jump height, 4.5 fall resistance, and 15% sprint speed, and 50% bullet resistance. And it comes with dual Berettas, which are some of the most powerful guns in the mod. So, the Beretta 2 a shot, the Desert Eagle 3 a shot, and now take off the suit. So then 4 a shot, and 6 a shot. And then for Mysterio, the energy projection does none. Okay, it does like 1, 2 damage. The charged beam does 4, and the drones 1 shot. Alright, the energy projection does like 2, 3 shot. The charged beam does... I let go too soon. Let go too soon again. 7. And the drones, I'd recommend you to back up. Get 2 a shot, causing the bullet resistance to do a lot of protecting for Wild Dog. So with the dual Berettas, if you crouch, you can actually scroll through the bullet types. So you can shoot a 3-shot burst. So let me go creative. 3-round burst from each Beretta, or you can do a single shot, causing it to be the same as a Desert Eagle, but dealing less damage. For the Fabricator, he takes 27 tritium to craft, and requires Defense 1, Group 2, and Marksmanship, as he is one of the few suits that can use guns. For the augments, he gets damage reduction, punch damage, weapon damage, jump height, fall resistance, and sprint speed. With these being his final stats, causing him to have a lot of damage reduction and such, and having some decent mobility, but obviously not having the most abilities, only having the resistance. And that is it for Overexplaining Tier 4. This video is estimated to be like an hour, roughly. So, yeah, it'll be roughly an hour, maybe a little less. We'll have to see how it goes. But, yeah, that's the end of this one. This took a while, but, hey, if you guys ready for Tier 5, I'm not. That's 17 suits and so many ults with Deadpool and Barry. So that one's gonna be a bit. So yeah, that one, Tier 5 is going to be at least a week away. But likely gonna be a lot more. But either way, that is the end of Overexplaining Tier 4. I'm not gonna have fun making the thumbnail fitting everyone in. But I'm gonna have to do it anyway. So, hey, that's the end of this one. Goodbye.